This track went from nothing to a full future bass banger in just one session. In this video, I'm breaking down exactly how I structured it. You're gonna learn how I built the energy in the intro, where I placed the drops, and how I created tension before the payoff. You'll also learn why the arrangement decisions I made are exactly why this track hits. Let's not waste any more time and let's get right into it. All right, so here we are in our project. Forgive me, it's a little unorganized, but we're gonna have to make do with what we got. So we'll just start right at the intro. And so at the beginning, we start with a few different pianos. So we've got this one. Also, we have this piano too. And then we also have another piano. Very piano-driven intro. And then there's a reverse swell, which is swelling into the main verse here, as well as some sound effects. The sweep. And reverse impact. And then the actual impact. And then we also have these sound effects come in right away when the verse comes in. So this will be like crackling and then some morning birds. And you don't hear those very much. And then we also have a string sound come in. So altogether, it's going to sound something like this. Also have a crowd noise. And I keep it very quiet. So this is at -35 decibels. So that's super quiet. And then I also have these vocal chants here and a reverse into the vocal chant. And then the automation is on the reverb too. Like this. Whoops. So it really reverbs in and then it gets into this. And so what this is doing is creating a call and response with these two vocal phrases. So if we were to just play these, I put them in a group, so I process them together with just some OTT, kind of make them sound like they're in the same space. And then more vocal chops come in. And all together, we get something like this. Also, the bass is coming in here, so it's just a vital sub bass, and it's EQ'd pretty heavily. And it's just a very simple sub with distortion. It's a sine wave with distortion. So by itself, it sounds like this. And it has its own kind of pattern there, which keeps it interesting. Then we also have a track that's muted. I'm going to delete that. And all throughout this, we have swells and kind of sound effects, impacts, transitions, just to keep it interesting. Then it gets into the first verse here. And this is when the fun drums start to come in. So I'm going to start playing and unmuting one element at a time, and you'll see what each element is doing. So first we have a kick. Then on top of that is there's two kicks. This one is specifically for the high end there. So this by itself is a very top heavy kick. And that makes the kick sound really thick and full. Then with a clap, another clap layer. some movement on the top end with a loop, and then some bongos. Now it's really grooving, but let's just add another drum loop of bongos. And then we bring in the keys. And here's the syncopated rhythm for the keys. So it's like someone's really playing those keys. These are more legato, so they're not syncopated as much. And a grand piano on top of that. And we've got these vocals. So this is kind of like the main lead, but it's actually a vocal. And then we also have the ad-libs still here. Pretty simple, it's grooving. And we also have this, it's another bass. It's like a plucky bass that kind of fills that lower mid-range. We have these sound effects to transfer into the next section. So here the high-end strings come back. And another shaker loop. And this should be like post drop. All right, and then we transition into this section here, which is like a trap kind of future trap type vibe. And so I chopped up the vocals so they sound like this. Tons of effects. There's like this Ableton voice shimmer waiver. And then also I think what makes it these vocals really unique is the Crystallizer tool, which is adding that kind of twinkling sound. So you'll hear that. So that's a fun effect. And then we have these vocal chants come back in. And they're also slowly filtering back. And this next section, just to keep it interesting, we chop up these vocals. And the drums are pretty simple here, so I'll just mute the drums. Okay, and then some more transitions into the next section. Which is like a build section, or kind of like a bridge. And what keeps it interesting here is this vocal ambience. And the sidechain kicks in when the kick comes back in, which is here. And here's where these plucks start to come in. And those are automating in. Just keeping it really interesting. We've got those high-end strings to fill up that top end. And then we also have these labs come in. These lab strings come in for the first time. And what I did is added an arpeggiator on here, so they're like kind of going up and down, and you'll hear that here. So if that was louder, it'd sound like this. And it just sounds like a orchestra's kind of playing. At least to me, it sounds like that. And then also we transition into the next section here, where we get some brass to really beef up this section and make it sound super intense. Side chaining, of course. And these are all at different pitches. So it's like a full brass section there, which is really cool. The vocals are there again. These kick start to slowly build, creating tension. And then can't forget about the marching snares, making it super epic. Riser, white noise. And then we get into the final drop. But I'll just play everything together here. And can't forget this drum fill, just to fill up that space before the drop. And then we get the final boss drop, which is a lot of saws and a lot of drums. So this is what those sound like. Well, first of all, we have a ton of white noise on impact, crowd, and here we have the main lead on the drop. Which is two, is it serum here? Two vital presets. With the glide on, of course. Together they sound like that. And then we have this big group of saws. So here's one super saw number 2. We have a bass, which is specifically filling up this region. So then we have another mid bass, which is pretty important. Otherwise, it would feel pretty empty without this one. So here's it on. And then another mid bass. This one's a little more wide and a little lower in the frequency range. A sub bass. And a sub bass even below that. Double sub bass. Okay. And then we have our drum bounce, which is a drum loop. On top of that, we have this classic feature bass snare Son Holo. Shout out Son Holo. Virtual Riot. Just really, really thick boy type drums. But on top of that, we have crashes. And on top of that, we have a brass. But on top of that, we also have another brass. Brass chords, I should say. And then on top of that, we have the old drums from the first drop, because I forgot to remove them. But it just sounds beefy as AF. Here's the crash. On top of that, a Tesla crash. Making it sound super juicy. Vocal chop. Super subtle. And what are we missing? White noise. Get that really gritty top end. More white noise. Starting to sound pretty good. Let's bring the saws in. I like this part. We are changing the synth a little bit here. So we got the arpeggiator. I like that one a lot. I should save that. And I'm just muting it automation wise over here. So it cuts out like this, just so the reverb doesn't play. But that actually doesn't seem to be working. You can still hear the reverb, but that was the idea, I think. Anyway, then we get the trap hats come in. They're pretty quiet, but they make a pretty big difference. Fresh air on them to really boost the highs. So they really cut through, because we have a ton of white noise with probably like white noise here, white noise here. This drop is mostly white noise. And then crashes, of course. So it's super like white noisy, but that's what a lot of future bass songs do, is they add a ton of white noise. So I'm just gonna play the final drop, and then I think that's about it. So yeah, let's play it. Lastly, we have this vocal come back in again, pitched up, soothed it, because it is super harsh because I added decapitator, so it's super distorted. Punish on, Valhalla, vintage verb on, compressed to the drums, or not compressed, but sidechain to the drums, EQ'd, and then this is what it sounds like on top of everything else. And that's about it. And so that's how I made I Want You This Moment, out now on all streaming platforms. Go check it out. And if this was helpful and you would like more breakdowns like this, don't forget to hit the subscribe, the like, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.